Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Release to Rise podcast. My name is Kate Patraw, and I am super excited to talk to you this week about something that was a game changer for me. I spent so many years wasting my time on this, and I don't want that for you. So I'm very happy that this topic came in when I intuitively looked in and tested it. This was 100% what the people who are in my community and who I am on this earth to help need to hear right now. So, per usual, I will explain everything in my own terms as I see it and as I've experienced it. So I'll talk a lot about stories of when I made this mistake and then how I shifted it, just so you can kind of see and understand what can happen in your world if you choose to make this shift as well. And again, it's something I wish I'd known, because so many years wasted. There's no mistake you're listening to this. If you're drawn to this podcast, especially this episode in particular, there's a reason. There's really no such thing as coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. Your higher self will guide you to what you need to hear and experience. With this episode, if you're drawn to it, there's something that you need to hear for yourself or for someone in your life. Today, we're going to talk about a real life-changing perspective on affirmations. And I might get a little heated. Not heated in an angry way, but I might get on my soapbox a little because I wasted so much time with affirmations. I'm going to give you a life-changing perspective on affirmations and why they don't work and why they can also set us back and have the reverse effect of the intention of doing affirmations. Because affirmations are always, or typically, I should say, look in the mirror and you say this or you say that, and then it will help you feel a certain way. Now, I have spent decades on affirmations and would continually feel so shitty. If you guys haven't listened to any of my episodes in the past, my brain is very compulsive. I have an OCD brain, which can work very well for me in these types of situations. Can also hinder me in certain ways. But again, everything is good and bad, right? But for me, when I have a self-help trick that I discover, I'm going to go gung-ho on it. When I would try affirmations, if you tell me to do something in the morning, and get up in the morning, look in the mirror, say these things, you best believe my compulsive brain is going to do that. And not only am I going to do that, I'm going to do it for the exact amount of days that you told me to do it, whether I actually feel or believe that I should or not. And that's where my OCD brain can help in so many ways. Now, because I've have trained intuition, now I don't always just jump to that conclusion. I look to see inside what's best for me, which has helped me immensely, but that's a whole other podcast for a whole other time. With affirmations, we often hear affirmations be things that you want to fix on yourself or the way you want to feel, or looking in the mirror and loving what you see, all of those types of things. And what I didn't realize over I was trying affirmations for probably, I would say, about 20 years before I really understood this concept and got into the energy work that I do, which was life-changing because it changed my perspective on this. And I, quite frankly, stopped wasting my time because I was wasting a hell of a lot of time on affirmations and getting super frustrated because nothing was working. I'll give you some examples. So, throughout my life, I have struggled with depression and anxiety, and for various reasons. I think for some of it, I know the emotional root cause of depression, and that was very much the case for me, but I didn't know that at the time. But during my life, when I've had depressive episodes, it could have been situational, but it also was, I had a lot of physical stuff going on. For example, my gut was imbalanced in a lot of ways. And when your gut's imbalanced, they call it your second brain. So when your gut's imbalanced, you're not going to feel your best. Or when you have toxins in your body, you're not going to feel as positive. There's just so many things that can influence our emotions. And if your stomach's imbalanced, you're going to feel more depressed or you're going to feel more anxious. There's just so many catalysts to depression. At the time, I didn't know that. So I really dove into self-help books and I really dove into figuring this out because I was on an SSRI. And again, there's no good or bad, but I was on an SSRI for a very long time. And studies will show that if you're on them for a long time, they can really deplete your body of minerals, which now I'm experiencing the consequences of. But that's, again, a whole nother story for a whole other time. And also, I'm totally going to fix it. because I got my energy work, I got my emotional root cause, and I got some physical things to help. 3 pillars of healing. So you bet your ass, I'm going to heal myself. But anyway, when I was going through those depressive episodes, I would read the self-help books or listen to them on audio, on Audible or whatever, when I would drive to work or when I was in college or whatever it might be, whatever the time frame was. And affirmations were often the tool that was suggested along with talk therapy. Okay, great. I can do both of those. There were 2 affirmations that I had that I got from a book, and one was I have so much to be grateful for. So really stepping into an attitude of gratitude, which again, I think is a wonderful thing. I really do. And I think there are so many positive benefits to that. So please don't mistake this for me saying don't be grateful, because the more gratitude you acknowledge and the more gratitude you notice, the more there is to be grateful for. So please don't mistake it for that. But there was one where I have so much to be grateful for, and there was one where I have so much good in my life. And here I am, super depressed. I mean, struggling to get out of bed depressed, not seeing my value in the world. And now I know that my emotional root cause was I'm not connected to my soul purpose, but I didn't know that at the time. So whatever, these were the symptoms. Struggling to get out of bed, not really being present in my life. I would put on a really great face when I was out either at work or when I was at class during college or with friends. And then when I would get home, there was just so many symptoms. I couldn't sleep. My appetite was way off. Again, probably a sign that my gut was way off. I would just cry, could burst into tears at any moment. That type of depression is just way off. And so I read these books, talked to my therapist. Yep, we're going to work on these 2 affirmations. Now, if you've never struggled with depression, congratulations, that's amazing. And there's something to recognize with depression that so many people often mistake. When people are depressed, the last thing that they can really muster up is energy to be positive. So whether it's an affirmation where you look in the mirror and you say, I have so much good in my life, or if it's an affirmation of, I have so much to be grateful for, or if you're talking to a friend and you're telling them they're depressed and they're like, oh, but look at all the great things in your life. Like, look at what you have. When your mind and your emotional state and your energy is in a depressed state, those things are very inaccessible. They're very hard to reach. And so, yes, those ideas of finding the good in your life and those ideas of figuring out what you're grateful for, that's amazing. But in order for me to access them, I was going to have to shift emotionally. But when you're in a depressed state, that's a very mucky water to be in. It's like quicksand. And so, yes, those ideas are all well and good, but actually standing in front of a mirror and saying, I have so much good in my life, and looking myself in the eyes and believing it is a whole other thing. Because one, took a lot of energy to get to that mirror, people. A lot of energy to get my butt out of bed and walk to that mirror. So getting in front of the mirror was hard enough. Then saying that and looking at yourself and believing it, it's inaccessible in those moments. So yes, those affirmations sound great on paper, but when my brain was depressed, I would look in the mirror and I would say, I have so much good in my life, or I have so much to be thankful for or grateful for. And would I believe it? One, no, never. And also, my brain would immediately go to all the things that are not going well in my life, all the things that I'm struggling with, the things that other people are experiencing that I don't get to experience. Why is it so hard for me? And it's almost like it would encourage a pity party. So instead of me feeling positive about my life, it just pointed out the obvious, that things weren't going well. And so the more I tried that, the more I tried these affirmations, the crappier I felt because I could not feel or notice the good in my life. And I know I've talked to you guys about how this has happened even in I would say like probably within the past 5 years. I've had depressive episodes where I, in my logical brain, would say, okay, I'm married to a man who loves me and adores me. My kids are doing well. My kids are healthy. They're happy. They're living their best life. And yet I would look at myself in the mirror, go through all the things, and I would feel so crappy about myself because I couldn't emotionally and energetically feel positive about those things. It was always a, yeah, but, yeah, that's great, but what about this? And I would immediately negate it. This also happened to me with, I've talked briefly about, and I can do a whole podcast about my issues with my body dysmorphia and my self-image, which I also struggled with disordered eating for a few years. But during that time, one of the recommended tips was to look in the mirror and look yourself right in the eyes, and you say, I am beautiful, and I am strong, and I am healthy, and I can do hard things, and all of those things that you say to yourself to get you through the day. I would look in the mirror and I would say to myself, I am beautiful. And I would immediately see at least 5 things wrong with my face. Or if it was a full length mirror, I would see at least 10 things wrong with face down to the body. And I would pick myself apart. I really would. I mean, the intent of the affirmations were great, but I immediately discredited, I am beautiful. Immediately. And there is an energetic reason why that happens to us. It's not just us being stubborn, and it's not just us not wanting to heal or being fearful of healing or whatever it might be. There's an energetic subconscious programming, which I will talk about, as to why this happens. I would look in the mirror and I was at my worst point in my disordered eating. I was 105 pounds, and I was supposed to look in the mirror and say, I am beautiful. And I was supposed to look in the full-length mirror, no less, and say that. But the minute those words came out of my mouth, because remember, OCD brain, I'm going to do what you tell me to do. I'm like a sheep, or I used to be. Going to do that. Go ahead. I'll be fine. I'll do that. But then when I would look in the full-length mirror, look at my body and say, I am beautiful. And again, remember, I was 105 pounds at this point. So I was a few pounds away from a heart attack, according to my doctor. I would immediately think, whoa, you look huge. You are ginormous. Look at that thigh. Look at your face. And I would start to pick myself apart. So yes, affirmations again sound great on paper, but they had the reverse effect for me. I felt like utter crap after I would get done with the affirmations. They just didn't work. But I didn't understand that there was an energetic reason why. I didn't understand the brain programming that was going on that I had yet to release because I had yet to really acknowledge it or get to that space. When I was a first-year teacher, I was in a city district where I live, and I grew up in a very rural town. So it was incredibly eye-opening to me to work in the city schools. I had 14 boys in a behavior management class. I was 21 years old. I was greener than green because student teaching is great and all, but I just feel like it needs to be a way longer experience than what was provided at the time. When I walked into that class, I immediately felt inept and I lacked confidence, and I know I wasn't the right person for the job. I was a 21-year-old from a rural area who did not understand inner city dynamics, who did not understand the culture, who did not understand the life that my boys were living until I started doing home visits, which was incredibly eye-opening. And it all made sense. And I learned so much, not only from my students, but my principal and my colleagues. It was incredibly eye-opening. It put life in perspective, to be quite honest. But when I started knowing how I felt and understanding the danger I was in, because it was a behavior management class, I didn't know how to restrain anyone. I didn't know the weapons that were going to come in, how to safely get them from a student. I lacked so much knowledge and so much training. So it was a hard time for me as a teacher. It was a hard time for me. I started questioning, is this really the career for me? Am I supposed to be doing this? Is this what it's like every day? Because I don't know if I want to sign up for breaking up fights and waking kids up in the back of my class because they're high on Lord knows what, or taking a knife from so-and-so and then having to call security because the student's coming after me to get the knife. It was just utter chaos. You come from college and you're like, I'm going to change the world and I'm going to teach this, 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 and this. There was very minimal teaching going on. So I lacked a lot of confidence, and I was in talk therapy. So we started talking affirmations. I started the affirmations of I'm an effective teacher. Every morning I would look in the mirror, I'm an effective teacher. And because I didn't believe it, I would immediately start thinking of situations where I didn't handle that right. I had no clue what to say when this student confided to me about this, that, or the other thing. I clearly am missing some way to reach these kids, but yet they need a lifeline. I don't know how to work with another adult as a teaching assistant because they're looking at me like, why am I going to listen to this 21-year-old? I mean, there was just so many things that flooded my mind. And then guess what happens when that floods your mind and that's the programming that's going on in your subconscious, then more of that stuff happened on the daily. Because that's what my brain was trained to see. My brain was trained to see that I was inept, that I was ineffective, that I wasn't the right person for the job, because that was the programming in my brain. It's kind of like if you had a garden and you had a soil, right? You had soil in your garden. Let's say that represents your subconscious. And there's weeds in there, right? And the weeds are the limiting beliefs and the weeds are the negative programming. If you were to sprinkle seeds in there without doing anything to the soil, you just sprinkle some seeds on there, which those represent the affirmations. Are those seeds going to take root? No, absolutely not. What they're either going to do is they're not going to take root and they're either going to wash away or they're going to get crowded out by the weeds. Because unless we address the soil, those seeds are not going to be in a healthy environment to then flourish. And that was what was happening to me. I had so much subconscious programming, so many weeds in my soil that when I would try to plant the seeds, I would try to drop the affirmation of I am an effective teacher. I would try to drop the affirmation of I am beautiful. I would try to drop the affirmation of I have so much to be grateful for. The weeds would overtake the seeds and the seeds would never germinate. They would never take root. They would either wash away or get crowded out by the weeds. Because what happens is, and this is why affirmations don't work, and I will die on this hill, affirmations do not work because we have subconscious wiring that is going to prevent the affirmations from actually registering. When I talk about subconscious wiring, think of it as a filter. Remember the analogy I use with our subconscious. If we have a negative program, it's almost like it toggles the filter on, similar to when you're online shopping and you want a size 8 sneaker and you want it for running and you want this brand. So you turn on all these filters and it narrows your search. So it narrows your focus, right? Subconsciously, when we have these negative programs and these limiting beliefs, it's like turning those filters on. Because then what it does is it narrows what our subconscious sees. And our subconscious is 95% of what we think on a daily basis. It controls 95% of our thoughts. So it is running the show. Whether you want to admit that or not, it is. And so when you have subconscious filters on, for example, of life is not worth living, turn that on. My life is miserable, turn that on. There is nothing to be grateful for, turn that on. And then you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I have so much to be grateful for, it blocks it. Too many weeds in that soil. That seed is never going to germinate. It's never, if it even hits the soil. Because what happens is your subconscious can't see that. It can't recognize that. The subconscious brain, when the filter's turned on, it then, what it does to survive is it looks for evidence to prove that life is not worth living, or to prove that life is miserable, or to prove that my thighs are fat, or to prove that I am a horrible teacher and not meant for this job. It doesn't know that that's a negative thing. The subconscious is very literal. It's very black and white. It just is what it is, and it finds the evidence, and that's how it keeps us safe and alive. So when those filters are on, those affirmations are never going to work. And that's why affirmations don't work. There is so much programming in our brain that are blocking the affirmations from landing. You have to get to the root. You have to weed out the soil. You have to clear it, aerate it, foster it so that it's the right pH. Once you get rid of those things, then you can use some different tools that I'll talk about in a second that actually do stick. But if you're just looking at yourself and reading affirmations or looking at yourself in the mirror and saying them right to your face, And then you get mad at yourself because it's not working. It's not your fault. Your subconscious is just not ready to receive that yet. We have things to clear first. There are things blocking that from landing. There are things blocking that from coming into your brain and rewiring your brain. You have to turn those filters off first before you can put in new programming. So what changed for me was I started body code, emotion code, and belief code work. And I stopped doing affirmations, quite frankly, because for me, I would just get so frustrated and so angry that I wasn't getting any better. I'd spiral and it would send me down a loop of the world was ending, that type of loop. So once I started doing the energy work and I started to toggle those negative filters off, I got rid and released the limiting beliefs, the negative programs, these things called faulty core beliefs and these things called faulty core identities. I started to turn off those negative filters. And then all of the sudden, not all of the sudden, but over time, I noticed, oh, I'm way more positive than I used to be. Oh, I actually really enjoy my life. I'm still working on the mirror one and liking what I see. I think that's one of my major life lessons. That is always a work in progress. Some days I nail it and other days not so much. But now that I understand that, I focus on that during my energy sessions and with these things called ingredients. And slowly I'm getting there. But it's an ebb and a flow. Healing is an ebb and a flow. It's never linear. It's never going to be just one line perfect, start to finish. Oh, good, I'm healed. But we have to turn off the negative filters before anything's going to stick, before our brain is even allowed to see and recognize some of the positive that you want to come in. So what I did was when I was working with my own practitioner, and then once I got certified on my own to do emotion, body, and belief code work, specifically the belief code work, although I will tell you a lot changed with emotion and body code because there's a lot of energies that you can have stuck in your field that are greatly impacting how you see yourself in the world. But also with belief code, these negative programs, these limiting beliefs, what I did was I released the energy, and I continue to. I'm a work in progress. Every month, or depending on processing time, I will release energies that will then leave room to reprogram my brain. So I release, and then I use tools to reprogram and put the positive in. And I will say, it's not one of those things with this energy work where I had one session and it was like, healed. With this type of stuff, it takes time. But all of the sudden, what feels like all of the sudden, which is not, because I was working on it for months, if not years, what felt like all of a sudden, I noticed, oh, I've never had that thought again. That's interesting. Oh, I actually do feel really confident in my job, because by the end of my teaching career, I really did feel like I was an effective teacher. I believed 100% to my core that I was. I know that I am. To this day, I know that I'm a damn good teacher. I just had to leave the field for other reasons. But I knew that I made a difference in the kids' lives. In my heart, I knew that. Whether anyone else told me that or not, in my heart, I knew that. And an affirmation did not get me there. Energy work got me there. Rewiring my subconscious got me there. Because then all of a sudden, when I rewired, I would see evidence that I was making a difference. I would see evidence of a lesson going well. I would laugh when a lesson didn't go well and go, okay, well, I guess we got to fix that. That was a shit show. Got to change that one up, because of course that happens. But instead of me berating myself and getting mad at myself, I saw the humor in it. The kids and I laughed about it. We all acknowledged it. I mean, there were several times where I was like, listen, this lesson very well could not be great. So I'm going to need you all to buckle up, and you're welcome to complain in a nice way to me. But just, I don't know if this is going to go well. And I had that atmosphere that it was okay to fail, because I still felt confident in who I was as a teacher. And if we can get that way, even with my emotions, now when I have a depressed day, or I have a day or a chunk of time, a couple days usually, that's the max, where I feel really blah. Now I know to look at a bigger picture. What's my energy like? Do I have energies I need to clear? Is this an emotional root cause of something? Where am I not in alignment with my soul path? Something's going on to have me cause this, or something's going on to have me feel this way. I can now access that not because of affirmations, not because I looked in the mirror and said, I am grateful for so much in my life. I have so much good in my life, but because I released energy that had my subconscious programming having me believe and look for evidence that life was a miserable place. So now when those times slip in, I know it's not the neural pathways that are talking. I know it's other things from the outside, external. Actually, I shouldn't blame it on the external. It's something internal that's reflecting back to me from the external. And then I look at that. But I didn't get there from affirmations. And I don't know if this is going to crush your heart, because I know that so many people really believe in affirmations. It's a really popularized thing. You see it all over social media. One of the podcasts I used to listen to, I loved, that we can do hard things. And I think there's so much validity and power in those statements. But when we rely on them to change the way we feel within, and when we rely on them to suddenly help us heal emotionally or physically, or heal our thoughts and think more positively, that is where you're going to set yourself up to fail, unless you also complement it with energy work. And I didn't know that at the time until I started doing the energy work. This was a happy little accident that happened from the energy work. I started the energy work because my physical body wasn't healing. But what I got from the energy work was not only my physical body healing, but my mind was healing, my emotions were healing, my subconscious was reprogramming. I had no idea how much was holding me back energetically. You just don't know what you don't know. Now that I have released some energy that had me stuck, released some energy that toggled those negative filters off. Don't get me wrong, still have a ton to toggle off, but we're getting there, people. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's not just going to happen overnight. It's going to take me a while, but I am a hell of a lot happier and way more optimistic now that I've done the energy work. Also way more optimistic now that I've surrounded myself with positivity as well, because the energy you're around can also influence those things. So now what I do with my energy sessions, I'm always, depending on what I'm going to focus on. For example, I'll have a whole list. Lately, it has been digestive system, Barrett's esophagus, some physical stuff, acid reflux, but then also self-image, self-worth, self-love. I feel like, again, those are a bit of my stronger kryptonites, which is why I have a little bit of trouble seeing accurately who I am when I look in the mirror. And again, I do really think that's something that I'm on this earth to master in this lifetime. And I'm a heck of a lot farther along, but I have a ways to go. You know, that's just life. We're always going to be learning lessons. But now what I do, so I'll focus my energy work on that. Inevitably, it always helps just shift things. It always helps toggle those filters off. It helps me see the world in a different way. I will tell you, the processing can be a little bit of a doozy. I'm in the middle of processing right now. And I just emotionally, as it works its way out, you just feel some of that stuff a little bit more. So it's been not 100% fun, shall we say, but I'd rather have it out than in. And I'd rather choose this hard than living a life that is miserable and unfulfilling and not recognizing all the good things that are going on in my life. So I do that. But then the other thing I do, instead of affirmations, I do these things called ingredients. Now, ingredients are similar to affirmations in that they're a positive statement, but the way you interact with them is very different. One, I always make sure that energetically I'm doing the energy work to make sure that my subconscious can receive them. So I'm weeding the soil, I'm aerating the soil, I'm fertilizing it, I'm doing all the things to make sure that this brain of mine is ready to receive. It's ready and able. And there's as minimal weeds as possible. I do all that to make sure that when I do these ingredients, they take root. Because here's what happens with ingredients. Instead of just looking in the mirror and saying something, for example, one of the ingredients I'm working on right now is it's safe to express my emotions. And the reason I knew to work on that is because I have Barrett's esophagus, which acid reflux causes that, or can be one of the triggers for that to start forming. So with acid reflux, the emotional root cause of acid reflux is not feeling safe to express your emotions. When I intuitively looked in, that was 100% why I had acid reflux. And then I look in what area of life. Is it in vocation? No. Is it in finances? No. Is it in relationships? Yes. Is it in family? Yes. So in the morning, I do my energy hygiene. I clean, clear, charge everything. I put shields up. I do the whole nine, you guys. I just lay in bed like a mummy for a minute and just make sure everything's good. Clear all the dark force energies, you name it. And then I look at the notes in my phone, which I hate getting on my phone, but I just look at the notes in my phone and I look at the ingredients. One of them that I'm working on, like I was saying, is it's safe to express myself, or it's safe to express my emotions. So I look at it, which vaguely can appear like an affirmation, but here's the difference. I emotionally connect to it. I say to myself, okay, it's safe to express my emotions. Yesterday, what happened during my day where I had to express my emotions and it was safely received? Oh, that's right. I got frustrated with my husband. And I looked at him and said, I'm so frustrated right now. Can I talk to you about it? And I talked to him about it and he understood and it went really well. And I clock that. I notice that. I find specific evidence to prove that to my subconscious brain. I don't just blankly look and go, it is safe to express my emotions and move on. That does diddly squat. I looked and I registered and I found the evidence to prove to my brain, to my subconscious, so that I can start rebuilding the neural pathways and continue to strengthen them after they're built, that it is safe to express my emotions. I also am working with one of my friends who she's a specialist with body stuff, and specifically we're working on hair because I have some thyroid stuff going on. And one of the ingredients is nourishing myself first nourishes others. Because for me, I'm just constantly thinking of other people. It's just the way I think it's just the way I was raised, was just to kind of make sure everybody else is okay. And then I check in on myself, if at all. So this ingredient is nourishing myself first, helps me nourish others. So every morning I look and say, okay, yesterday, what did I do? What was one thing I did to nourish myself? And how did it actually set me up for success? Oh, well, that's right. I went for a walk, listened to this amazing podcast from one of my favorite people, and it gave me all these great ideas for certain clients or friends or the next podcast episode or whatever. I prove it to myself. I find the evidence that proves that I nourished myself and the world didn't implode. I chose me first and the world didn't implode. It actually helped me serve others. Because again, that's a whole self-love thing, right? Got to choose yourself first, prioritize yourself first, and then it will help you serve the world. So that is now what I do. I don't waste my time looking in the mirror and saying affirmations anymore. Because now I focus on a few key ingredients in the morning. I've trained myself to try to see them in real time as I go throughout my day. Again, proving to my subconscious that this is happening. And then I continually weed out anything from the subconscious, toggling off those negative filters so that I can access things more and more and more and more. That is why it drives me insane when people talk about affirmations. If you just say it 5 million times within your lifetime, it will convince your brain. No, it won't. I've experienced it. I've worked with people who have experienced it. It won't until you toggle those filters off, until you weed out the limiting beliefs and the negative programs that are blocking that affirmation from even coming in. It's going to be pointless. And even after you do, to do affirmations is not proving anything to your subconscious. You got to find the evidence. And that's where I use trained intuition to figure out what specific ingredients I need. Because there are specific ingredients worded in a very specific way that will help me the most versus specific ingredients worded a very different way that will help a friend, family member, client, whoever the most. So please, 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 if you're someone who's doing affirmations and they're not working, I beg you, do not beat yourself up over it. They're not working for a scientific reason. It is simple science when you think of it in the way of filters, if you think of it in the way of soil. Use those analogies to remind yourself. It's not you. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have some filters on that need to be toggled off. That's it. And those filters get turned on. We can have limiting beliefs if we have a repeated negative pattern or negative thought over and over and over. That can turn into a limiting belief that gets lodged in our field. It can be inherited. It can come from our childhood when our brains are sponges between age 0 and 7 and we absorb the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's so many reasons why. And really, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. The reasons why don't matter. What matters most is toggling those filters off. weeding all that stuff out so that you can live the life you're meant to live. I never thought that I would ever get to a positive place and that I would ever get to a place where I felt like life was worth living. That's how scary and deep the depression was. The work that I now do saved my life because it toggled off filters that I didn't understand were on and causing me to think certain things and act certain ways and believe certain things that weren't true. I know if I can heal that, I know others can too. I know this was a lot, and I know that it's a very simplified concept, but I think it's just so important to drill home because I don't want anyone wasting time like I did. I mean, decades, people, decades. I've got journals upstairs. I should probably burn those, that are just affirmations after affirmations written over and over and over, and nothing changed. Nothing changed because my subconscious filters wouldn't let it. So if you're someone who is using affirmations and frustrated that they're not working, it's not you. All right. I could yammer on about all of the affirmations I did time and time again. I could be here for hours yammering on all the affirmations that I wasted my time doing, but I'm grateful for it because it led me to this. And I think I had to go through it so that I could truly understand what the change didn't feel like versus what the change now feels like. It's a significant difference. And I just didn't know. But it brought me to where I am today. And it brought me to the place where I can help myself and others heal and feel better. This is really just scratching the surface. I know I could get way more in depth with affirmations and the science behind it and the real neuroscience of the neural pathways and things like that. But again, I just want to start somewhere. I want you guys to have a basic foundation because we've got to start and then build from that. If you're someone who wants to learn faster, learn deeper, go more in depth, then the webinars are going to be the place for you. Those will be starting up soon. If you're interested in receiving information about the webinars, I only send that out via email. So make sure that you hop on my newsletter. I will let you guys know topics. And then if you can attend live, great. And if you can't, I have a spot where you can submit questions and then I'll answer them during the webinar if time allows. That is the place for if you want to just learn deeper, faster, and ask specific questions. Otherwise, if you have any questions, I'm always happy for you to email me, kate@katepatraw.com. The email's in the show notes. My website's in the show notes. If you're wondering if the energy work that I keep talking about is for you, I have a quiz that you can take where it's just 10 simple questions. It's super quick and you can assess where is your energy because not everyone needs what I do. I also intuitively look in on that too, but you can take a quiz and figure that out for yourself if you could benefit from a session. Thank you so much for being here today. I thank you for listening to my rants about affirmations and how much I do not love them. And I hope that this prevents you from struggling in the way I did, because ain't nobody got time for that. All right, my friends, until next week, talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.